Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 14, Episode 2. And before we get into this episode, I just want to say thank you guys so much for all the love that you guys showed me for my birthday. I had the most amazing birthday. I was a little bit down in the dumps before because you guys know that this is my first birthday without my dad. He passed away. Actually, it'll be a year next Sunday. So I was kind of in a mood, but when I tell you that my family and my friends really showed up, really showed out for me, and they made this entire weekend so special. Again, it was just a magical weekend. I felt good. I looked good. Everybody showed up, showed out. You guys sent me some really sweet messages. And when I tell you that I am just beyond appreciative, I am beyond touched because y'all have just been so sweet to me. And I just want to say thank you. And I'm so thankful for the community that I've cultivated on YouTube. Like, what a blessing it is to sit here and talk to you guys and do what I do. It's just amazing. But with all that being said, let's just jump right on into it because we don't have a minute to spare. We start this episode off with Sanya Richards-Ross at home, and she's in the kitchen with her mom and her sister. I forgot, is her sister younger than her or older? But anyhow, they look just alike. They look like twins, and the mom looks like she could be a triplet, okay? Their mom looks amazing. She looks really young, and she looks like she's a lot of fun. But when I tell you that I could not stop laughing at them arguing over the beef patties, because remember that they're Jamaican, and the mom was so funny because she was putting some beef patties in the oven for the dad, and they were really getting upset. Now, while I'm not Jamaican, my family is Trinidadian on my mom's side and Antiguan on my dad's side, okay? So I get it. I understand the hype. So they finish arguing about the beef patties, and then we learn that Sanya's sister, Sheree, is actually living with Sanya and Aaron. So it's Sanya's parents, her sister's husband, and their children. So it's 9 of them in the house. I was like, what? 6 grown adults under one roof plus 3 children? I know that's a lot. So now Sheree brings up that it has been an adjustment living all under one roof. So now their mom gets an attitude and she says, well, it's been an adjustment for everybody, like you're not the only one. So now her sister's like, Mom, why are you acting like what I'm saying is an insult to you? I'm just saying how I feel. Like, I'm aware that everybody feels the same way, but can I just say how I feel? And I was like, yeah, I don't know why the mom got upset at the comment. At the end of the day, I don't think that they all need to be living under one roof. And a quick shout out to the subscriber who said that Sanya looks just like Monique Samuels. I had said it in my last recap. For some reason, I thought it was stupid and nobody else would think the same thing. So I took it out of the recap. But when you said it down in the comments, I said, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one. It's like the same face shape, the neck, it's something, but they look like they could be cousins. And they do have quite a lot in common because they're both married to football players. But again, I digress. And since we're on the topic of Monique and Potomac, I do have to ask you guys, and let me know down below, will you guys be watching her and Chris on Love and Marriage DC? Just let me know. I'm still undecided on if I'm going to watch it or even review it. You guys know how I feel. If you watched my season 5 recaps, and you know exactly where I stand about what happened. But yeah, let me know down below, will you be watching Love and Marriage DC? Now we jump over to Miss Sheree Whitfield at the famous chateau, and she is super excited because her new friend, Kenya Moore, is coming over, and she cannot wait for Kenya to see the house and to see her finished basement. Because remember in like season 8, Sheree had her like soft launch housewarming party, but her basement wasn't finished, and then Kenya went downstairs and was joking about how it wasn't done, how it was a mess. So she can't wait for Kenya to see the final product. Sheree really lives off of other people's validation, especially when it comes to status and money and stuff. Like, she really needs somebody to see that she's just doing it. You know what I'm saying? Because, she just kept saying, it's done now, and I just want her jaw to drop. It's like, it's not about that. You should buy things because they make you happy, because you like them. You shouldn't be buying things to just flex. I understand that, yes, a light flex is cute every now and again, but that shouldn't be your sole motivation of buying something. Sheree reminds me a lot of Toya from Married to Medicine, because her and Toya have the same mindset when it comes to buying things. They're really not buying it for themselves. They're buying it for other people to be jealous of them and to just want what they have. And it's just an awful mindset. But let me not get off on a tangent. So Kenya finally comes over. They go downstairs in Sheree's gorgeous basement. I love the bar. She had a lounge. Like, it felt like you were in a club. And then she also had a spa room. And I said, that is fabulous, okay? Like, just chef's kiss. She really did do that. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Every time I see Chateau Sheree flash on the screen, the pettiness inside of me whispers, where did she come up with the rest of the money to finish building that house? So Kenya and Sheree sit down to talk, and Sheree is complimenting Kenya. She's saying that Kenya looks happy and how she almost loves Kenya. And that's a big feat, because we all remember that when they both met each other, they couldn't stand each other. So to see them in a great space where they're good friends now, that's a big deal. So of course, Kenya brings up Marlo's La Archive event, and she wants to know Sheree's thoughts. Sheree says, it was cute, but honestly, I could have worn my joggers. Kenya agrees, and then she adds on that she really can't stand how Marlo acts so pretentious, the whole speech about her getting money, and how it's just very off-putting, very tacky. I agree. That's been one of my biggest issues with Marlo. She will always find some way to sprinkle in what she bought, how much she has, what she spent on something, letting you know that her toothbrush is designer, everything is designer, and it's just very annoying. It's just very tacky that she always has to name drop or discuss the labels that she has on. It's enough already. And Marlo, you're a bit too old to be acting like this. Don't get me wrong. I love designer too. I love Neiman Marcus, Saks. I love it all. However, I try to keep things in perspective and remind myself that these are just things at the end of the day. Okay? We're not taking any of this stuff with us. Now, here goes Sheree being messy, and she goes on to tell Kenya all the reads that Marlo was saying about her, about how she was living in a hotel with a white refrigerator and driving Lisa Ray's Range Rover. So Kenya's like, what? Like, first of all, what's wrong with the white fridge? And also, at least I can pay my rent. Then Kenya says, and I don't know what she's talking about because I don't even know Lisa Ray. Like, not like that. Now where I'm borrowing her car. Now, if I were Kenya, I would have asked Sheree what she said, because Sheree is way too eager to relay bad news like that, because if somebody's talking about me in front of you, then 9 times out of 10, you are probably chiming in and saying stuff about me too. I'm sure it wasn't a one-sided conversation. And Sheree failed to say what she said, because she was saying, yeah, I heard that too about her borrowing Lisa Ray's Range Rover. Why do you tell Kenya that? You already know that Kenya's gonna read somebody down. So she was like, girl, she's talking all that mess. She was sitting up there reading Drew for her bun. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, she's sitting up there getting the Bosley hair treatment for her edges. So now Sheree says, and speaking of Drew, she left her phone in one of the gift bags, so she had to come over and pick it up. Now Kenya interjects, and she's like, well, that's just really funny that you bring up Drew, because Kandi was telling me that you and Drew share an assistant named Anthony. So now we see clips of Drew FaceTiming Kandi, and she's telling Kandi how Anthony was Sheree's assistant for 3 years and how Sheree wasn't paying him. And on top of that, Anthony is telling Drew all of Sheree's personal business. So Kenya tells Sheree all this, and Sheree is annoyed. So Sheree says, he wasn't really my assistant. I would just call him from time to time if I needed some help. Like, that's pretty much it. Now, I didn't believe a word that came out of Sheree's mouth regarding Anthony. I definitely believe that she wasn't paying him and that she probably still owes him money. There is a recurring theme of Sheree not paying people. Remember how the news broke out about she wasn't paying the contractors when they were building Chateau Sheree? And remember in, what was it, season 6 or 7, when she and Bob were fighting it out in court and she hired Phaedra as her lawyer? And Phaedra said, girl, I usually charge this, but since you're my friend, I'm gonna give you a discount, but I'm gonna need $5,000 on retainer. And remember that episode when Phaedra was like, girl, my assistant had to chase you down for the money because you didn't want to give it. I don't put anything past Sheree, and I still remember when Kim Zolciak called her out for writing bad checks at Neiman Marcus. And also, did y'all notice how Sheree glossed over that not paying part? All she said was, well, you know, he wasn't my assistant. I would just call him from time to time if I needed something. She never said, oh, he wasn't my assistant and I don't owe him money. I'm all paid up. And not to belabor the point, but that is just such a pet peeve of mine. Like, pay your people. If you have somebody doing a service for you, pay them. I can't stand all this cheating people out of money, not paying folks. Like, what the F is wrong with you? You're on a show making 7 figures or close to it. You can afford to pay the people that you hire. Now we jump on over to Drew and Ralph at home. They're having a family dinner with the kids. Their private chef has cooked a really good meal. And before we really dive into this scene, I really do feel sorry for Drew. It is clear that they are not playing at their marriage for a storyline. I know that I had said that, I thought that, but rewatching this episode a second time, I was like, no, this isn't a game. Ralph is really crazy. And she seems like she is very scared of him. I mean, her body language, her constantly saying how she's walking on eggshells around him. She always tears up, just very fearful to say how she feels and speak her mind. They're not acting. This is real. And again, I feel very sorry for her. So the kids excuse themselves from the table, and now Drew and Ralph start discussing the Law Archive event. So Drew says, well, a funny thing happened. Me and Kandi were talking, and she showed me your assistant or your former assistant's Instagram page. So already Ralph is super defensive, and he's like, I fired her. So now Drew wants to know if they still talk. Let the craziness begin. Ralph starts talking in circles, making no sense. Pretty much, he's still in communication with his former assistant. Ralph starts talking about he understands where Drew's coming from because it's another woman and how she looks. And I said, oh, what does that mean? Even Drew is caught off guard, and she's like, oh, well, how does she look then? So now Ralph deflects and says she's 50. So Drew's like, okay, and like, men go out with older women all the time. Like, what's your point? So they keep going back and forth. This conversation is going nowhere. Okay, Ralph is talking over her, he's talking loud, and he's making sure to keep her in a cycle of confusion. So now Drew says in her confessional how people tell her all the time that Ralph gaslights her. So she's like, no, he doesn't gaslight me. The producer asked her to read the definition of gaslighting out loud, and when she reads it out loud, she's like, oh, wait, he actually does. And it's like, Drew, we can all see it, sis. We need you to see it. And when I tell you that the editing this season is A1, because when production rolled the tapes back and they played that little movie of Ralph gaslighting her all last season, and now I screamed. So now Ralph says to Drew, look, if you don't want me to talk to her ever again, then just say that. I'm like, Ralph, how evil can you be? This is your wife. You vowed to cherish her, to love her, to not put anybody else or anything else before her. And the fact that you're going to be so cruel and say, well, I won't talk to her unless you tell me not to. The fact that your wife is uncomfortable, that should be more than enough reason for you to end this relationship. But it's evident that something is going on and you don't value or care about your wife at all. And I have to say, I really did feel bad for Drew, especially when she got emotional and she was so teary-eyed and she's like, you know what? I would never say that. I just want you to have respect for our marriage, that you'd want to do that on your own. And then when Drew said, you know, I don't want you to resent me. And he said, well, you know, I already do resent you for stuff, but, you know, we'll talk about that later. And he said it just so cavalier. I said, Drew, sis, this man does not love you. He doesn't. Because nobody who loves their wife would treat their own wife like shit. And excuse my French, but that's just how he treats her. It's disgusting to watch. It's very uncomfortable to watch. And it's very alarming. It's like he wants to break her down emotionally. The mind games, the gaslighting, her always being on edge. I'll be damned if I'm walking on eggshells around anybody. Now we flip over to the next scene with Kandi, and she's on the phone with her Broadway co-producer, Brandon. Kandi is the producer of the new Broadway play, Thoughts of a Colored Man, and she's super excited because it's the first ever all-black cast on Broadway. So now Kandi's asking Brandon about the reviews, and he's telling her how the New York Times did not like it, but Amsterdam News liked it, and they called it the most influential play of the 21st century. And a quick shout out to Amsterdam News, an iconic newspaper in New York, and they shouted out me and Kempire a few months ago, so that was a really cool moment. And yeah, so shout out to Amsterdam News. Like, you guys are amazing. And thank you again for the coverage. So while Kandi's still on the phone, Todd walks in and now they start talking. Todd brings up how Kandi's always working and how her going back and forth from Atlanta to New York kind of puts a strain on the household. He goes on to say that when she's away, it disrupts the flow. So of course, Kandi gets defensive and she says, well, that's for work because you're always away. You take multiple solo vacations a year. Like, you're going to Miami. Like, what's that about? So I'm like, but Kandi, why can't you acknowledge that you're always away from home? Whether it's for work or pleasure, it doesn't take away from the fact that you are away from home a lot. And one thing about it, Kandi and Todd will get into another venture, another project, and then complain about how they're always away. I'm not trying to be funny or shady. Y'all have more than enough money. It wouldn't kill you guys to maybe take on a little less so that you could spend more time with family and be home more, especially since you guys do have 2 little ones. But again, just my opinion. So they're going back and forth. They're obviously annoyed with each other. And Kandi says that they're not on the same page. So now Kandi brings up how their pool house and guest house look a mess. Now they go to the pool room and it looks a mess. Boxes are everywhere. There's stuff in the pool. Like, it just looks a hot mess. I'm like, y'all have too much money for this. You guys can easily hire somebody to clean everything out, make the pool room look really nice. Like, there's just no excuse. So now Todd brings up how he wouldn't mind putting some of this stuff in his Jersey condo. And Kandi kind of looks at him and she's rolling her eyes and she says a snide remark. And we learn that Todd bought this condo with his ex-fiance. Things didn't work out, as we can see. And she never bought him out, so he had to pay for the condo, and the condo is still in his name. So he still has this condo that he barely ever uses, and Kandi feels the type of way about it. So Todd's going on about how it's their Jersey condo and how they could stay there when they go to New York. So Candy's like, no way. And also, that's your condo. Like, my name's not on the deed. So Todd says, well, my name's not on this house. Todd had me screaming when he said, well, I mean, when we met, the house that she was in, she was bumping and grinding and she didn't even flip the mattress over. So, you know, if I could deal with that, then she can deal with me having this condo that I have with my ex. Like I've said many times, I've never seen the chemistry or the romance between them. They really give me friends or business partners. Every scene that they're in, I never hear them talking about, you know, each other. Like, it's always business. It's always, oh, let's start a new restaurant. Let's start a new venture. Let's, you know, do a play. I'm going to be here for 5 months because I'm filming this. Like, I just don't see the chemistry between them. They're just always talking about business or money. It's always one of the two things. And it seems like their storyline this season is going to be tension about their work schedules and Todd having this condo. That seems like that's going to be a point of contention. Now we move on to the next scene with Marlo, and she's being dropped off at this studio. Now, I didn't know where she was at. I didn't know where she was going, who she was going to see. But surprise, surprise, she is meeting up with Kandi. Now, mind you, Kandi was in the middle of her Halloween photo shoot, so she is dressed in this witch costume. And the costume looked great. She had the contacts in, she had the huge witch nose, like the hair, she had the green skin, like she did that. So Kandi finishes up, and now her and Marlo sit down to talk. And Kandi brings up Marlo's little archive event, and she also brings up how it was so nice seeing Marlo's nephews all dressed up. Then Kandi continues on by saying how much she loves seeing Marlo as a munty, and how it's just really awesome to see her, you know, taking care of her nephews. So now she's asking Marlo how she's doing, and Marlo says, girl, I am stressed, I'm overwhelmed, like I need some help. Marlo continues by saying that she has properties for her nephews, she has a life insurance policy on the both of them, and how she's pretty much set them up for success. Then she goes on to add that she is a bit stressed out because if she were to drop dead today, she doesn't think that they would go hard. And it's like, but sis, they're very young. So, I mean, how hard would you expect them to go if something did happen to you? Like, come on, let's be realistic. Marlo's going on and on about how guilty she felt when they first came to live with her, how she just spoiled them and bought them all these things. And then she goes on to add how she just bought her oldest nephew a $1,200 suit for homecoming. So now Kandi interjects while also promoting her play because, of course, Kandi just can't help herself. So she says, but I have a question though. Why does being black have to equate to struggle? And I said, Kandi, I usually don't agree with you, but come through with the word. Because say that again, please. I am sick and tired of people acting like black people do not deserve a life of ease. I have never subscribed to that thinking of you have to get it out the mud and you have to struggle. No, ma'am, not me. And when Kandi said, you can still teach your kids to have a strong work ethic and also spoil them, I said, come through with another word. There is nothing wrong growing up rich, wealthy, well-to-do, affluent. There's nothing wrong with that. Almost as if you're not valued if you didn't get it out the mud, if you didn't have to struggle and cry for it. You know, if you didn't break your neck to get something, it's almost looked at as like, you know, a negative. But we see people of other races with money who spoil their kids, buy them houses, down payments on stuff, handing them over whole companies, and nobody bats an eye. But when it's a black person, it seems to be a problem. In case nobody's told you, you deserve nice things. You deserve for good things to happen to you, okay? You deserve for things to be easy and just flow and be smooth. You do not have to break your neck and work yourself to the bone and be tired in order to get what you want, okay? You know what? Let me just get off of this topic because we'll be here for another 40 minutes, okay? And this review is already long enough, all right? But that's just a pet peeve of mine. I was happy that Marlo and Kandi touched on it because I'm tired of this mentality that black people have to just work themselves like dogs to have something nice. So they get off of that topic, and then Marlo brings up that while she appreciates Kandi being sweet to her nephews and cash-apping them for their graduations, she wants Kandi to be more hands-on. So Candy's like, girl, what are you talking about? And Marlo says, Kandi, you have a big family and you guys are always doing family events and you never invite us over. Like, my boys need to see that. So Candy's like, okay, hold on. Let's be clear. Me and you have had a very rocky relationship, and if you want me to be that kind of friend, you need to be that friend for me. Kandi brings up how her and Marlo have known each other for a long time and how Marlo used to date her godbrother. So she goes on to say that they were cool, but when Marlo joined this show in season 4, Marlo got nasty and sort of turned on her. And Kandi was definitely annoyed by that. Her facial expression said it all, like, who are you to tell me that I need to invite you somewhere? Like, girl, stop. I think that Marlo needs to focus on who's there and not, who's not there to help out. I understand that she wants some more help and, she's an aunt who's trying to fill the role as a parent. But in the same token, don't be so demanding. At the end of the day, Kandi has 11 businesses and projects that she's working on. She's barely around for her own family. So for you to demand that you and your boys come over, you're going to have to focus on the people who are in your life to help out. Now we jump to a short scene with the husbands having a guys' night. Is Todd, Ralph, and Aaron. So they're at Blaze Steakhouse because, of course, Todd and Kandi are always going to promote their restaurants. Now, while I've seen and heard mixed reviews about Blaze Steakhouse, the food in this scene did look very good. So while they're eating and talking, Todd brings up this whole assistant mess and how the assistant has a fat ass and was offering him a massage. So Ralph's like, look, this is Atlanta, okay? Everybody has a fat butt here. So now Ralph goes into this whole story about how he couldn't find a massage therapist, so she offered him a massage, but it was kind of like a joke. Ralph's double talking, making no sense, and it was so funny when he was in the confessional and the producers had the question marks all over him. And then when Ralph said, but real talk though, Drew should not have been snooping through my phone. And I really doubt that Drew was going through your phone. I think that your phone was out and a message popped up, she glanced over it, and she saw it. I don't think that she was just going through your phone just to go through it. Ralph is a sicko. Like, that man is sick. He gets pleasure and enjoyment from giving Drew a hard time. And I just loved how the other husbands weren't buying any piece of this story. He needs to come clean and be honest that he probably is cheating with this woman. You're telling that woman something for her to be so comfortable to even offer giving you a massage. Period, point blank. Again, I give Drew and Ralph another year and a half tops. There's just no way that anybody can deal with the constant gaslighting and manipulation. Now we finally get to the last scene of the episode, and it is Drew and Ralph's special date night. Drew's super excited. She says that she feels like a princess, and she has been desiring this treatment for a long time. So we see Drew getting ready. He flew in a designer and her makeup and hair team. She's, getting all made up. Drew looked pretty, but the dress reminded me of a Vegas showgirl. So we see a driver pull up to the house with a red carpet. Drew feels like $1 million. She's like, oh my goodness, like, I can't believe he just did all this for me. Like, he just went all out. She says that she's on cloud 9. She finally arrives, and Ralph is there waiting on her, and they're at his tailor showroom. So Ralph is going on about how when he proposed to Drew, he made her feel like a queen, and he wants his wife to know that no other woman comes before her. Everything about Ralph is just so phony to me. You know who Ralph reminds me of? Stevie J. They sort of favor each other, and the attitudes are similar as well. Stevie J was just such a disgusting womanizer. The way he treated Mimi and Jocelyn was shameful. And the way Ralph treats Drew is very reminiscent of that. Because Stevie J was always, talking in circles, making them both feel like they were crazy. I just get the impression that he's more concerned with looking like a good man versus actually being a good man. So they sit down to have a nice romantic dinner. The chef comes out. The food looks amazing. Ralph is professing his love for her. He says how he wants to be the best husband, the best man, and the best provider for Drew and the kids. And I'm sorry, but talking to your wife like she's a dog is unacceptable, and that just would not fly with me. Like, I would be getting a divorce so quick. I'm not taking any poor treatment from anybody. Drew says, I love you too, but I just want to get to a place where we're not experiencing high highs and low lows, and we need to get to a place where we can communicate healthy. So now Ralph is upset at Drew, and it's like, are you insane? Drew didn't say anything bad. Like, anybody would feel the same way. I mean, who wants to have high highs and super low lows? That extreme, you can't sustain that. There needs to be a happy medium. Now, Ralph starts bringing up what their marriage counselor, Dr. Ken, said, and he's like, you know what? We both need to learn to stop putting crazy expectations on the other person. And from now on, the new order is going to be God, myself, my wife, and then my kids, and then everybody else. I really screamed when Ralph really said out of his own mouth that men are taught to put everybody else before them. I said, wait, what? Are we living in the same world? Because men are always taught to put themselves first. So stop it. The way Ralph acts towards his own wife, the way he disregards her feelings, on what planet does he think that he puts himself last and he puts her first? He doesn't. Like, Ralph really believes what he's saying. So now Drew says, look, I feel like I don't say anything. I don't express my own feelings because I'm so worried about keeping the peace, and your wrath is something serious. And it's so crazy because she literally can't say anything. If she says, oh, babe, that upset me, when you said X, Y, and Z, he's flying off the handle. And she's cowering in fear with tears in her eyes. So it's clear that Drew still has some things that she wants to get off of her chest. And that's understandable because I'm somebody where if something's really bothering me, I'm not able to just push it to the side. I feel like in my relationships, I should be able to express how I feel. So Ralph says again, this night is not for that, okay? Tonight is for just us. So Drew drops the issue, but she still ends up saying the wrong thing. She says, I get it, okay? I feel special tonight, and tonight shows me that we can make it. So Ralph says, shows you? Excuse me? She has obviously put her foot in her mouth inadvertently, and she is tearing up. Ralph gets so nasty. And my heart broke for Drew because nobody deserved that. Ralph says that he's going to call Dr. Ken first thing in the AM to schedule a session for Drew so that she can learn how to communicate with men properly. I said, for her to do what? Did he really just say for her to learn how to talk to men properly? I said, excuse me? All she said was, this shows me that we can make it. Why is that so bad? And that language sounds like Ralph is watching a whole lot of YouTube with these red pill lunatics. And you know who I'm thinking about, the one who just passed away. Yeah, I might do a video on that because that's a whole mess. But anyhow, it sounded like he watches a whole bunch of these red pill rejects / losers who hate women. Because who speaks like that? And now Drew at this point is enraged, and she brings up how Dr. Ken called Ralph a maniac. Now when Drew brought up the whole maniac stuff, I was like, Drew, you already know this conversation is about to go all the way left now. I was nervous. I thought that Ralph was going to flip that table over. I was scared for her. I said, again, Ralph is good and crazy. I don't know what he's liable to do to her. So now Ralph is like, I'm not a maniac. A maniac is a sick person. Like, I have all these degrees on my wall. Like, a maniac could never be as successful as I am. So now Drew takes out her phone and she starts reading the definition of a maniac. And when I tell you I had tears in my eyes because I said, this is a whole mess. The fact that you have to read the definition of what a maniac is to your crazy husband. You have her reading the definition, Ralph screaming that he's not crazy. So now Drew apologizes. Of course, Ralph refuses to accept her apology. And while she's apologizing, she's touching his arm. So he says, please don't touch me. And I'm like, that's your wife. Are you kidding me? I would have thrown that wine in his face, left that dinner, gone back home to get the kids, and gone to the nearest Four Seasons. Drew at this point is sobbing. She gets up from the table and she's trying to fix her makeup. And she says, I don't understand why communication is such a trigger for Ralph. Drew walks back to the table and Ralph says, you know what my problem is? I do too much. Doing stuff for you isn't the move. This whole night was a mistake and I regret it. He walks off from the table and we see Drew crying, picking at her food, and that's where the episode ends. For this man to embarrass and dog his wife out like this on national TV is a disgrace and it's disgusting. And Drew, if you don't hurry up and file for a divorce, this is so sad. You are living in dysfunction. This man does not care about you. He doesn't love you. He does not value you. Because if he did, he would not be treating you like this. Especially not on national TV. I know that some of y'all might say, Brooke, I think they're both playing it up and acting, but I really don't think so. Rewatching this episode twice, I think that this is all real and Drew is really going through it. Ralph seems crazy. And if he acts like this when the cameras are on, I can only imagine what he's saying to her when the cameras aren't there. But y'all, that was the episode. Drew and Ralph's marriage is a hot, raggedy mess. And I don't think that any amount of therapy or counseling can help them. But this was a good episode. Thank you all so much for watching my recap. I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.